Podcast. It's been a long couple of months away. We're happy to be back. Honestly, the summer's been kind of tough. We haven't really been able to get in here a lot, and we've kind of made our own set. We're away from where we normally are, and I know it's good to see you, Matt Fry. I've been really excited to get back on here.
Yeah, good to be back. Got a few months of catching up to do with the league and especially the Reds. So.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on, a lot of not so good news, but we do have some some things to talk about that have happened over the summer. Because, like I said, when we left you, it was I believe May 17th, and they were 6 games under 500. Nothing's really changed that much. They're still kind of they're still below the 500 mark. So kind of been a mediocre summer. Had some ups and downs.
Yeah, sitting last place in NL Central right now, not where we all expected to be at the beginning of the year, but
seen some new faces. We're going to talk a little Reese Hines at some point. We're going to talk a little draft, and we're going to talk a little bit about the trade deadline, which I think was kind of disappointing. Me and Matt Fry are going to pick a couple of names that we would have liked to see wearing a Reds uniform. So, to start, we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into it, talk a little draft, how that went, what I want to get your thoughts on that. So obviously the big pick for the Reds was at number 2 overall they took Chase Burns, which to me was shocking, and I think to most Reds fans was pretty shocking.
Yeah, I was. If I were to make a bet on who they would pick, I'd probably put a lot of money on Charlie Condon, and I think that's who the Reds probably should have picked, but they went ahead and drafted the hard-throwing righty from
I think I would have liked
Wake Forest.
I would have liked to see Condon as well. That's kind of where I thought they were going to go, because for me, the needs for them, and I know you don't really draft needs that high in the draft.
Especially with locking Hunter Green up for a while, and we have Lodolo, Abbott, as well as Williamson, who's still hurt, and Rilauder coming up, so it's like
a lot of pitching depth in the organization right now.
Also ultimately led probably to the trading of Frankie Montas. Now we got Chase Burns coming up through this system,
which we will talk a little bit more about. Chase Burns, obviously, like the number that jumps out for him is the strikeouts. So 191 strikeouts over 16 starts at Wake Forest. Obviously, that's like exceptional. It's like 15 Ks per 9. 2.7 ERA, 10-1. I mean, if you pitch at Wake Forest, you're probably not going to lose a lot. The one number that really the strikeouts jump out, but the negative that really jumps out is the home run per 9 over his career. The 2 years at Tennessee was around 1.5, and then 1.3 for Wake Forest, which we know, Great American Ballpark.
It's very hitter friendly.
Yeah, so it's a lot. It's Hunter Green all over again, really. And obviously Hunter Green has been good, but how long is it going to take for Chase Burns? We can't really afford for him to take 4 years to get good.
Yeah, it seemed like a make or break pick. That's a real big gamble right there, taking him, and I think he's obviously a really good pitcher. We got both ACC pitchers of the year now in our system, and I think he'll turn out okay. But it's just a gamble to me. He could be really good, but it's also, like you said, in Great American.
Yeah, and you're always worried about the injury, the injury thing with these guys throwing so hard, because obviously Chase Burns is sitting 99 to 100. I think he's going to be good. I don't hate the pick. At the time I did, because I really wanted Charlie Condon.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was Condon, and if it was anybody else, I thought they were going to go Caglianone right there.
I'm glad they didn't go him.
Yeah, I really did not want him.
He's going to be the answer. I don't really even remember where he went. But
he went Kansas City, I think. 6 overall to Kansas City. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't hate the pick, but I didn't love it either. I really wanted Charlie Condon, because for me, the Reds need a right-handed hitter, especially with some of these guys. The Reds looking forward, you're kind of going to be banking. I mean, Ellie's been great, but you're banking on some of these guys like McLean, who's going to be coming back from a shoulder injury in about 2 weeks. And then you've got, Steer, who's kind of had a down year. He's had he's been okay, but for Steer to be your second best right-handed hitter is, I don't know if that's going to really get you over the hump. And Strand has been hurt. You don't know how he's going to recover from the wrist surgery. So to me, Charlie Condon was a guy that I think they could have drafted number 2 overall, stuck in the minor leagues for the rest of the year, and he maybe could have gotten a bit of spring training.
Yeah, especially with the outfield depth that you have now. You really only have TJ Friedel as an everyday player. The rest are kind of based on matchups. Like you have Benson and Fraley who are left-handed hitters, and that's where Condon would come in, face a lefty, or he could be an everyday starter too. But
yeah, so Condon goes to the Rockies at 3, which he'll probably put up ridiculous numbers in Colorado if he gets out of the minor leagues pretty quickly. So, but they land Chase Burns, and that's where we are. There's nothing you can change about it. But I just thought that maybe it was a little bit of a questionable move, and I know some people you kind of either love this move or you hate it. So we're gonna kind of see where that goes. So so that was the big name in the draft. All the other guys they got a lot of high school draft picks. They took an LSU arm. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Lefty pitcher, right?
I know he's a pitcher, but he could be, he could make a splash in a couple years. I know they have Ty Floyd still in the minor leagues from LSU that they drafted. So you have a couple arms down there. I just thought they had so much pitching depth.
Yeah, they were graded pretty high on their draft, so hopefully some of those guys turn out and crack top 30 of our prospects and can help us out later. So,
the next thing I kind of want to get into is a lot of discussion that's been going on right now is whether or not the Reds are doing, even though they're not in a position to win as of right now, are they making moves that are going to make them better for next year, and not just making mindless moves that are just we're getting rid of capital, we're getting rid of money, and we're just trying to so that we can pay somebody. Is it more or less making moves that this guy next year could be one of our guys in the lineup in the rotation? And that comes down to trade deadline, drafts. So, they made the Chase Burns pick at number 2. I want to talk a little bit about the deadline. I want to get your thoughts because, like I said, we really haven't talked all summer a ton about some Reds. So, obviously the 2 big moves they make, the first one being Frankie Montas and to the Brewers, which I thought was kind of
that is odd
to trade within the division. But they get a local guy. They get Joey Weimer back. Back into Cincinnati after playing at UC, and they get Jake Junis. We've seen Jake Junis pitch a little bit. It hasn't been pretty. I kind of want to get what do you think about this trade? How do you feel about it?
I like Joey Weimer, Joey Weimer. Considering watching them play the Brewers, he's always done good against the Reds, and I think he's a pretty good player. But the first outing Jacob Junis had, he's a little shaky. But I agree with trading Frankie Montas because I don't think he'll be a part of our
future.
Yeah, he's not going to be a part of our long-term success.
I agree.
And getting what you can for him now while he's pitched kind of good. Also, he's hitting a rough stretch, but the season he's had after being hurt the last couple of years is kind of impressive. And getting what you can for him now is I think Carl did a good move there.
I would agree. I like that move. I was a little bit surprised that they got 2 players.
Yeah.
For Montas, because Montas hasn't had a good year. He had a 5.01 ERA when they traded him. The walks have been up. The innings are down. He's only throwing 4 to 5 innings every start. And he's being paid, which I think the Reds eat that contract. But you get Joey Weimer, who's got a lot of club control. He's young. He's going to sit in AAA and mash, and then hopefully come up at some point for the Reds and maybe have a starting outfield spot. I do like his game. He fits well with the team. He can run.
Yeah, I like the kid.
And then Jake Junis, even though he's had some rough outings. He's only 31, so he's kind of in the, he's getting to the later stages of his career, but he still has a few good ones remaining. So I like this return a lot for Frankie Montas. I think if you would have told me this is what we were getting back, I would have told you that you're crazy. But I do like this move. From them. So I think it was good to get rid of Montas. He wasn't helping us win. So that, to me, was a move that is going to help us for the future. And I think that was a smart move on Carl's part.
I'd agree.
So, and then the final big move. They made a couple other moves. We got rid of Austin Slater, which...
For nothing. We basically just gave him
I think
away.
We got cash back for him.
We gave him and...
Livian Soto.
Yeah, Soto.
And then we made... one of the tougher moves was to get rid of Lucas Sims. Sims was the longest tenured Red, and now has handed that over to Tyler Stevenson from 2020. Lucas Sims was the only one that had played in the play or had been on that playoff team from 2020. And so it was kind of sad to see him go because he's been around for a while, and as much scrutiny as like relievers get, he's actually been pretty solid for them. You kind of knew you weren't going to get a big return. They got right-handed pitcher Ovis Portis from Boston, so you're not going to get anything crazy from that return because he is 30, and he's kind of been he's never really been a high leverage like setup guy, or he's kind of been in that middle of the pack.
Yeah, and he's just getting older as time goes, and kind of like Frankie Montas, he's probably not going to be a part of our long-term success, so getting a younger pitcher for him or anybody for him would be good.
And then probably the biggest name we got back they actually released him, and then I think we traded for him because he was still on the waiver wire.
Yeah, I think so.
Ty France, who has been playing almost every day for the Reds at first base.
Yeah, a couple home runs past couple games.
So yeah, and he's hit pretty well. I like this move. I think it's a low risk, high reward move. Seattle's always been a tough place to hit. So I think getting a right-handed power bat like him into Cincinnati, and I think so far it's played pretty well. He's hit a couple home runs, and the OPS has gone up.
Our fourth trade with the Mariners over the past couple of years.
Yeah, the Mariners and Reds have some sort of connection where we keep making moves. But Ty's been pretty good. I like his game. He's made some good defensive plays. I think he fits the team pretty well. I think it's a veteran, right-handed power bat that we kind of need, right now. And
especially with a struggling Candelario, he's good to throw in the lineup, give him a break or two, move him to DH.
I see this as a good move. Will he stay with us long term? I don't know.
Yeah, they're going to have to make a decision with that next year.
But I think at the trade deadline, I think they could have done more. Because what I've been seeing on the internet and some people saying, some of the people in the Reds organization, it's like, okay, if you're going to make moves, even though that you're maybe selling for this year, sell for the good of next year. Don't sell for the good of 5 years from now when Ellie and these guys could be gone. You have to sell and look to improve your team on opening day next year. So if you have to get a guy, or if you do want to buy for next year. Don't buy for this year. Don't buy a 1-year contract guy.
Yeah, your goal for this deadline is not to win this year.
Right. So if you're going to buy or sell, you have to buy or sell based on what you're trying to do next year. Because now, are they out of it? No. There's 45 games left, so anything could happen. But as of right now, they're 9.5 games out of first place. So you're not in the window of winning at the moment. So we're going to talk about, me and Matt Fry have kind of picked some names that we're going to bring up that I think I would have liked to seen them go out and get. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about that.
But there's also a couple guys that we were kind of shocked not to see go, like Fernando Cruz, the struggling Cruz. I've been saying leading up to the deadline that they need to find a spot for him to trade to, because he's what is he like? He's already old. He made his debut really old, late in his career.
He's 34 years of age.
And with the beginning of the season that he had, the incredible season that he had leading up to about the past couple weeks, some teams, like contending teams, maybe needing a good arm out of the bullpen with Cruz playing well, and we could get a few prospects for him. But now we didn't trade him, and he's kind of just
that's a good point.
Losing games
I think there's other guys as well, like a guy like Buck Farmer, who's been so good for the Reds this year. Kind of thought maybe we would see him go, but Nick Krall said that he doesn't want to blow everything up right now because he still wants to give them a chance to win this year. So Nick Martinez, another guy that could have went. Didn't go
Jonathan
anywhere.
India in the rumors.
Jonathan India, I think
honestly couldn't see them moving.
He's probably their best asset to move, him or Nick Martinez. But I don't think they were going to just ship India, kind of prematurely. Because I think his value could still maybe go up. I think if he continues to hit well. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. But I think there was some moves they could have made. They didn't. That's kind of your typical Reds at the trade deadline. They kind of, they underwhelm most of the time. But I think that the moves they did make, I think were smart moves. I think the Montas deal was a very good move. If you're going to get a guy, even though you're not buying per se, you get a guy, that maybe has 3 years on his contract, and you maybe have to give up some more assets. You bring in that guy so that you have him for 2 more years. Who cares about this year? Yeah, sure, you have him this year, but even if you're not winning this year, you're going to have that chance next year. Let's be honest. This year has not gone how we thought it was going to. Maybe that's based off some high expectations last year or from last year. But next year, they're going to be in contention. They have too many good players, too much talent. If they're healthy, they're going to be in
cutting
contention.
too much injuries this year.
So you can't look to rebuild now. You know what I'm saying? You have to look at next year and move on. So yeah, we're going to kind of bring up a couple players that we want to talk about. So the way we did this was we both anonymously, I don't know who his players are. He doesn't know who my players are. Hopefully we don't have the same. I did actually, you picked pitchers, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so he has pitchers. I've got position players. So what we're going to do is we have an ideal player that would be perfect world, like let's go get this guy. Still somewhat realistic, but have to go a haul. And then we have a more realistic player that I think they could have went out and got. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'll start with our position player. My ideal player that I really wanted the Reds to get was Brent Rooker from the Oakland Athletics, the right-handed hitting designated hitter, outfielder. I mean, again, this is kind of a perfect world situation. He's obviously hitting the cover off the ball. He's sneaking up on 30 home runs, I believe. And the last couple years he's put up an OPS over 850. So he's just been so spectacular for Oakland, and he's hitting in a lineup that doesn't have a lot of protection either. So I think that's a guy that could really benefit from hitting in Great American Ballpark. Some more fans in the stands and a little bit more protection around him. He would have been perfect to fit, in that cleanup spot. Now, to get a guy like this, because you have 3 more years,
it's going to be a hefty price.
Of his contract, you're going to have to give up something. So to me, if I'm the Reds, I'm unloading my pipeline a little bit. I'm like a guy like Sal Stewart, a guy like Chase Petty, Julian Aguiar. Those 3 guys, I think you package those 3 and then maybe, like a Will Benson or something. I think you can get Brent Rooker for 3 years, and that's a plus. I mean, he would be the second best hitter on our team.
Yeah, I'd love to see Brent Rooker in a Reds uniform at Great American.
Yeah, so he would be he'd be perfect. So that's kind of my ideal player that I would have liked to see the Reds get. Brent Rooker's been spectacular. Do you want to start with your pitcher now?
My ideal trade with the Reds, I talked about earlier, I was hoping they trade Fernando Cruz and then them giving Lucas Sims. I would think a left-handed bullpen guy like Tanner Scott would be a good move for the Reds to make. And we don't really have a lot of left-handed depth now. We have Mull, who's been pitching pretty good, but we got Suter, who's hurt, and then Justin Wilson. And I think that's about it in the bullpen for lefties.
They
and
traded Alex Young.
The Marlins fire sale that they had, just wanting prospects, I think we would have had to give a little some good prospects up for Tanner Scott. But seeing him in our rotation, that'd help us a lot, especially in the next coming years, getting rid of some of our bullpen that we did.
I like the Tanner Scott. He's a guy that's I've been kind of looking at too. Obviously, all-star closer for the Marlins. The only thing about him that I'm looking at right now is which again, he would be kind of a. Oh, okay, no. So he is a free agent in 2025. Oh. So I believe that we would only have him for 1 year.
Yeah.
Which,
if we were sitting first place, maybe then that'd be a really good move to get.
Yeah.
Win now move. We had couple guys healthy, but again, yeah.
Yeah, but I like that. I like that move if they were to make that. Tanner Scott has been, and I think in a Padres uniform, he's been lights out so far. So I think that's a guy that I kind of been on my radar as well that I've been looking at. He's just been the Reds faced him when they came to Cincinnati, and he just he's lights out, throws hard, good slider. He would be probably. I mean, would you make him our closer over Alexis Diaz, or would he be more of a setup? Or do you just do a double closer?
I don't know.
Kind of
yeah, you could. You might have to put him closer and move Diaz into the setup
Diaz
spot.
Has been shaky at times, so I think you'd probably play at matchups.
Yeah.
And just kind of go from there. But yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, so now we're gonna move to our kind of more realistic, kind of under the radar moves. My guy that I chose has actually already been he was traded at the deadline to another team from Ohio, not the Reds. The guy I'm talking about is Lane Thomas from the Washington Nationals, now a Cleveland Guardian. Look, his numbers, like the offensive numbers, aren't very good. He has definitely had better years in his career. If I can get my link to work.
Yeah, I remember last year when we played the Nationals, he absolutely went off against us.
Yeah, he had a good year last year. But, for me, I'm staying on the theme of the right-handed hitters. We need that right-handed, thump, if you will. In 2023, he hit 28 home runs. So the power's in there. It's just so far this year he hasn't really tapped into that power yet. 241, or that's 2020. Okay. 268, 315, 468 slash with a 783 OPS in 2023, not this year. But 28 homers, 86 RBIs. He had 20 stolen bases. The last 2 years he's had over 20 stolen bases. He has 28 this year. So that's a guy that to me he might be even a better fit than Brent Rooker just because of the base stealing, and he kind of fits into the algorithm of like how they're trying to win games. So I kind of liked him a lot, and I think you wouldn't have to give up a ton. I don't think Cleveland gave up a lot for him. So I think that's a guy that you probably could have landed for, maybe giving up a couple lower end prospects,
A whole lot cheaper than trying to go.
And I think that's
Rooker.
a guy that you're kind of waiting, even though he's approaching, 30 years old. He's 28. I think that's a guy that maybe, you get him in the right situation, in the right ballpark, and he just may hit, and it might click, because it's definitely in there. I mean, 2022 and 2023 both were pretty good years for him in a really bad Nationals lineup. So, not doing too hot with Cleveland. He's only batting 152 with 13 strikeouts to start with them. So, that's just another guy I'd like to see them have. Obviously, not going to happen now that he's with Cleveland, but that's kind of the move if I'm Nick Krall that I'm going to try to make, because that's, helps them out for the future. All right, so I'm ready to hear this pitcher that you have, the more realistic.
So my
pitcher.
more realistic, I was thinking, like you were thinking with the righty outfielders, and I was thinking maybe more like a Jorge Soler or a Mark Canha, someone a lot cheaper. But with Montas being gone, and we have a hole in our starting rotation with Williamson hurt, and we're throwing Nick Martinez out there. We're overusing Nick Martinez, really. Yeah. But the Rays sitting in the bottom of the AL East, AL East, and them trading away like a Rosarina, some of these guys. I think I think Garrett Clevenger would be a good guy to go out and get to fill the 4 or 5 spot in the rotation.
I know they have a couple lefties sitting out there.
Yeah.
And they have Colin Poche as well.
Adding another lefty in rotation with pair with Abbott, I think it'd be a good move to get.
His numbers are actually really good. I like Clevenger a lot. I've seen him. He pitched against the Reds this couple weeks ago, I think. He's having a pretty good year, 3.12 ERA, a lot of strikeouts. He's opened games before, so he can't, he's not a prototypical starter. He'd be probably more of a bullpen piece. And would you move Nick Martinez into the rotation then?
Honestly, well, he's kind of like Nick Martinez in a way, but yeah, he'd probably like matchup thing. It'd be like long reliever spot in that 5 spot in the rotation. Okay. Say there's a bunch of lefties and you'll just throw Nick Martinez or a bunch of Clevenger or something like that maybe.
I like this move. He's got career 3 ERA, 3.34. I like this move here. He's got an electric arm, throws pretty hard. I don't know contract wise what he is currently sitting on right now, and I don't know because the contract normally is going to tell you how much you got to spend on a guy.
Yeah.
So if they are wanting to get a guy that's has 3 years of control, you're going to have to give up more, than what a guy, even though he's a better player, the guy in the 1 year deal, you may not have to give as much for a guy that has 3 years on his contract. So I like that move a lot, actually. I think I would like that move more than I would like the Tanner Scott move, just because I think he's a little bit more under the radar, and you wouldn't have to spend as much to be able to get him.
Yeah, and I wasn't really hoping for anyone specific. I was more wanting certain players gone in a way than getting players back. But yeah,
for next year, and I like that a lot. So yeah, those are the guys that we kind of wanted to see them get. Honestly, if you guys during this trade deadline, if there's players that you guys are thinking of that maybe the Reds should have looked at, or maybe they should try to get during the offseason, let us know in the comments. I want to see what you guys think, because there's guys that we miss all the time that we kind of came up with this pretty quickly to try to see, what players would best fit the Reds, I guess. So, yeah, I think I just want to make this very clear, kind of go off topic here for a second. The content's going to be coming out like crazy. So we've obviously taken a big break from summer. We were kind of parted our ways. I went back home, we moved away from school. So we're looking to, put out as much content as possible. Matt Fry's been making some videos for us. He posted one a few days ago. If you haven't looked at that, check that out, the Ellie video. It's pretty cool. So, if you haven't already, check that out. There's going to be lots of content coming out. Let us know what you guys want to see. Let us know in the comments. Just keep liking and subscribing, all that good stuff. We're going to be talking like Reese Hines. We got to still,